Milton. My name is Robert Jones, and with me, Peter Schmidt-Hansen.
Hi.
And Nick Yip. And between us, we run the Brand Leadership Programme. Peter, although he looks very, very young, is actually retiring this September. And Nick, who looks even younger, actually is going to be taking over in Peter's role. So you probably will meet Peter briefly, but you will certainly meet Nick and me. So we want to say thank you very much for applying to join the Brand Leaders in September. We're very much looking forward to meeting you and getting started. And the next half hour is really to answer any questions that you have. So if you want to ask a question, do just please enter it in the chat box, and we will see it up on our screen and try and answer it straight away. We've got some questions that have already been asked by future brand leaders, so we'll try and answer them. And it's 30 minutes, so we will finish at 15:30 UK time. Hopefully having answered some of your questions about the programme. Peter, the first question that we've had is a really, really practical one. I like practical questions. How does a week at the course look like? What's a typical week?
Typical week is that on Mondays, Tuesdays and Wednesdays, the students will have lectures. When I say lectures, this is not chalk and talk. This is very much a conversation that happens in the classroom. So we typically have small groups, and the lecturers act more as facilitators rather than actually doing a formal lecture. So what we do is we have a lot of activities in class, a lot of discussions, a lot of debate, because our students, they come from all around the world and all different levels of experience. Some have been working in branding before, in advertising before, in marketing or PR before, and others have less experience or might be coming straight from university. But the joy of that mixed class is that you get a lot of interaction, a lot of discussion, a lot of debate. And it may be that you learn something from Robert, myself, Nick, the other lecturers, but you also learn a lot from each other. So typical week, Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday in class, and then Thursday and Friday it is homework, group activities, visits to the world of branding, often in London, sometimes in Norwich, and sometimes other places. But essentially, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays are the formal parts of the week.
And occasionally, Peter, some of our students do take on part-time jobs, yes, don't they? And it's not impossible. Yep. It's not impossible, although I would find it daunting because this is a busy programme.
Yes, absolutely. Part-time jobs is possible to do as a student. Obviously, depends on your visa status. But typically you can do up to 20 hours part-time work a week, but 20 hours would be a big chunk of your work, because I don't want to frighten you guys, but it is a demanding course. You have to work hard, but that's part of the reward of coming on this course. It is challenging, but equally coming with that challenge comes the reward of knowing that you are going to graduate with a unique degree, and there's going to be a lot of companies out there in the world of branding who want to employ you. So hard work, but great rewards.
And you were saying earlier, Peter, it's a small group. So this year we've got 30 students, which is our biggest ever. Yeah. So it's usually somewhere between 15 and 30. Yeah. Nick, from all your experience, what do you see as the advantages of smaller groups as opposed to big classes of, I don't know, 50 or 60 students?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I teach classes that are about 400. So
400.
So if you have a class size of 15 to 20 to 25, I think it's a good one-on-one ratio. I think you spend more time, being able to focus on students, and then being able to understand their learning. I think people learn differently. So if I've got a smaller class, it's easier to interact with individual students, being able to cater to all their different needs as well. Yeah.
In fact, what we call it informally the brand family, because it is like a family. Families, they work together, they play together, they laugh together, they cry together. Sometimes they argue, yes,
Mhm.
like all families, but we make it up again as well. And it is like a family. You know, we know all the students individually,
Yes.
you know, and
And they all know each other. It's, it's a
Exactly.
small enough group of
Exactly,
people
yeah.
to everybody knows
Yeah.
each other.
but also very international. You know, you said we got 30 students this year.
Right.
Those 30 students, they come from 16 different countries.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it is truly international, cosmopolitan, and great.
Indeed. And we're a tiny bit cosmopolitan between us, and I'm really not cosmopolitan at all. The only thing I can claim is a little bit of Welsh blood in me. But Nick, you're Malaysian?
Yes, I'm Malaysian, yes. And I think, looking at the profile of our students who are quite international, like you say, I coming from Asia myself, there's often this, how would I put it, this thing about our learning in Asia. It's quite different. Yeah, we're always taught to regurgitate. So I think for the students who are coming onto this program, I think it's a different way of learning. I think it's quite fun when you're taught to kind of challenge yourself, to do critical thinking, to try and understand.
Indeed, and branding is really not a subject where there are right answers in a way, is it? So the people, in some ways, for me, the most important thing for people to learn is confidence and belief in their own intuition, their own judgment, which I hope is one of the things we do. And Peter, you're Danish.
Yes, I'm a Viking.
Viking.
I invaded England when I was 6 months old, and I've stayed here ever since.
Yeah.
So I regard England and Norwich as my home now. But yes, I think again, the fact that we do come from different countries is one of the joys, because the students, the lecturers here, they bring different cultural experiences into the classroom. And when we think about the world of branding, actually the global world of branding is getting smaller and smaller. Brands, they can reach all around the world. Customers come from all around the world. We've got this very mobile, young, professional market out there. So understanding cultural differences, being comfortable with cultural differences is really important.
I think that's right. One of the things that one of my favourite weeks actually in the whole year is the first week. We have a welcome week where everyone gets to know each other. And although people come from every corner of the world, the thing that we all have in common is actually brands.
Yeah.
And a bunch of people are going to be Apple people, and another bunch of people are going to be Samsung people, and they have something in common.
Yeah.
They have an identity in common, which has nothing to do with the country they come from, but with the brands that they buy. So brands themselves are a kind of cultural glue in a way.
Absolutely,
which is exciting to watch. I think.
Yeah, and I think also not only a glue, but also an anchor in this fast-changing world where everything is changing. Many people relate to brands as a sense of comfort almost.
Yep.
They have their brand favourites, they buy, they engage with those brands, and it's something which is constant in a very rapidly changing and sometimes a bit frightening world.
Yeah, picking up on that as well, you're trying to understand brands in a different context as well. So although you may be an Apple lover, you come from Asia, Apple may be different.
Okay.
Again,
So how is Apple different in Asia?
I mean, I thought it used to be one of those things where when you pull out your handphone, it was an Apple. People used to go like, "He's an Apple user," or you put up your computer and it's an Apple sign. But I would see more and more people moving away from it now. Now that Apple is going to change of direction, and you also see the business model for Apple now changing as well. They're trying to compete on the streaming market as well. So you do see the different types. Another example is KFC. I think, if I'm not mistaken, KFC in China, if I'm not mistaken, doesn't really sell chicken.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So there again, you learn.
You learn. Well, that's something that one of the brand leaders will be able to give us the answer to.
Yes.
And Peter, you and I have been doing this course now for 10 years.
Yeah.
And the thing that keeps me excited about it is how much we learn
Oh gosh.
from the students. So this is a collective endeavour of learning rather than we tell you everything we know.
Absolutely, yeah.
So now another question that's come in is, does every student get a mentor for the entire duration of the course? So the mentor thing is something we're quite proud of, that you have the chance to meet up with a practicing brand professional, often in London, a few times in the course of the year. But it's not compulsory, Peter, is it?
Absolutely not, no. We offer every student the opportunity of having a mentor with whom you can meet 3 times a year, say, at your agreed convenience. We don't offer them from day one. And I think the important reason why we don't do that is that we want to get to know you first. You may have a particular interest in a career direction already. You might be interested in working for not-for-profit, or you might be wanting to work with luxury brands, or you might be wanting to work with international sports brands. So we need to get to know you and your personality a little bit first so that we can match you to a mentor. It's not just simply a matter of saying, here's a list of mentors, here's a list of students, and we'll just, in some random way, mix you together. We want to try and provide the perfect match. So you will get a mentor, but it will be later on in the course, once we've got to know you and your ambitions and your personality a bit better.
And I think also it's at that point that students can make the most of their mentors, actually, when they have a bit of experience in what we're all talking about. And for many students, the mentoring relationship, looking back over the years, has been incredibly valuable, because in some cases, mentors have got their mentee, if that's the word, a job. Haven't they? They've got their first step in the career world.
Absolutely. I think one of the things that we really try and encourage and support is this idea of networking. You know, you're not in the branding world on your own, but actually developing networks, contacts of people who might be useful to you is an incredibly powerful thing to help you develop your career. And using your mentor as a point of contact into the branding world is a really powerful door to that world.
And I guess more generally, Peter, one of the things that we think we're kind of proudest of in this programme is the range of connections to the business world.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we are connected to the business world through brand agencies, and we have got connections with brand strategists, with account managers, with creatives. We've also got links to the world of advertising. We've got links to the world of brands themselves, so sort of significant internationally known brands. We've got links there. So, you know, there is a complete range of different opportunities for our group of students to engage with that world. And of course, it's not just through mentors that we engage with the world, it's also through the projects that we do, because we do some specific projects where the students will work on rebranding or developing the brand of specific existing brands and even startups. You know, so there are plenty of opportunities for you on the brand leadership course here at UEA to get involved in a very practical way.
Great. So how are we doing? We are halfway through the webinar. We have an interesting question here. Will any new subjects be added to the course for this year? Any new subjects? Well, Nick, we were talking about that just this morning, potentially some new classes in the Frontiers of Branding module.
Yes, I think what will be interesting for this coming batch is to try and expand branding to the digital platform, for one. And I think one of the frontiers, I think the module that we're talking about is called Frontiers. Basically, what are the advances or what are the new areas of branding that we will be talking about? We'll be trying to look at things like AI, machine learning, I think anything to do with the digital platform. And I was also talking about how, this, in terms of businesses, how proximity is so important, where we used to be geographically far away from one another in terms of marketing, in terms of markets, But today, distance, proximity is no longer an issue because, like you said earlier, we are closer. Not only are we closer, our information flows even faster. So the way firms and the way companies deal and interact with their customers are so much faster. So which means the brand itself has got to be even faster. And not only faster because it's almost as if if I can't have it now, I'll go somewhere else. So that saying speed and proximity, these are two different issues that I think are very important. So coming back to your original question about what are the new things that we're looking at, these will be some of the aspects that we're looking at.
And I think sort of linked to that as well is the degree to which brands these days can personalize their offerings because of the data that they collect on us. They know our browsing history. Every time we hit a keypad, we are leaving a data trail for them to mine, and using that data, they can personalize their offerings, their products for us in a way that was never ever possible in the past. So, obviously one talks about market segmentation, and you might talk about young people, old people, different social classes, different levels of education. But actually these days, from a brand's point of view, we exist in segments of one person.
Yeah.
Your offer from a brand, Robert, and yours, Nick, is very different from the offer that I might get from the same brand.
Indeed. And if there's one word to be more suspicious of than any other, it's millennial. This idea that everybody in their 20s and 30s is the same.
Yeah.
And different from other generations is ludicrous
Yes.
and lazy. And it's one of the things that we will try and argue against in this programme.
Yeah.
I think the other thing we were talking this morning, I'm hoping that we'll be able to talk about more this year, is something that is very big back in the brand agency in London where I work, which is customer experience design. So designing in detail what customers experience from one second to the next, because that's so powerful in building people's sense of what a brand is all about. And it's also where consumers play their own role in building the brand. And I know, Nick, one of your interests is in co-creation and all of that stuff. So
as a researcher, I've been looking at where academics are doing their research in terms of brands and brand co-creation. And the idea behind brand co-creation is that the brands are actually owned by the consumer rather than the firm. And going along the lines of service and research into that area, is this whole concept that firms do not create value, but rather the firms only offer value propositions. It's the consumer that creates that value, and in that creation of that value, that's where the brand comes through. So again, that will be another area that I would love to talk about.
And that's for me personally, a very interesting difference between the practitioner world that I live in London and the academic world here, which is that what you've just been talking about is absolutely known and accepted here. But among our clients in the practitioner world, it's still not understood. And people see a brand as an asset that belongs to a corporation, not something that is created by consumers, and that value is created by companies, not by consumers. So there's so much that the practitioner world can learn from academic research.
And also learning from students as well.
So now the next question, actually there's two questions which are related, and we'll bring them together. And this is probably the least popular, inevitably, part of the programme: evaluation and exams. How are students evaluated, and do we have to do exams, Peter?
Yeah, well, the students are evaluated through a mixture of assignments and, I'm afraid, exams. Mind you, some people do like exams, but there are only 2 exams on the whole programme. They both are linked to semester 1 modules. So the 2 exams that you have on the programme, they come shortly after the new year, at the start of semester 2. The rest of the course is evaluated through assignments, mostly personal assignments, but there are a couple of group assignments as well. One of the group assignments is on our understanding research module, and the other one is on your module, Robert, brands in action, where the students work with a real life client and make a presentation back to that client as a group. So there is those group elements. And then, so the course is actually spread over 3 semesters, semester 1 and 2, that's the spring and the autumn. They cover taught modules, a lot of practical work, as I mentioned. And then in the summer, the 3rd semester, the students have an opportunity to delve really deep into an area that they really love. So if you're particularly interested in charity branding, or if you're particularly interested in museum branding or place branding or FMCG branding or the use of celebrities in branding or the way in which AI is getting involved in branding, you have a chance in the third semester to do a very substantial piece of research into the subject you choose and produce a nice dissertation of about 15 to 20,000 words. And often those dissertations act as great calling cards to companies. I remember a student a few years ago who was very interested in social movements and how brands could interact with them. And he used his dissertation as a calling card and is now working at a brand agency in London.
Yes.
Doing very well.
And actually, some of the best dissertations over the years have discovered important new knowledge, haven't they? So somebody did some research on how branding works if you're blind. Really interesting question, because branding traditionally has been mostly a visual phenomenon. Somebody else did some research on the tone of voice with which companies write and speak, which showed that actually customers value relatively boring corporate speak over very chatty copywritten language. You would think that would be more engaging, but people actually trust the boring corporate speak. So it's quite counterintuitive, or at least not counterintuitive, but against the grain findings that come through from some of these projects. So it's always interesting for us as supervisors to be part of that discovery process. And one of the things that I always enjoy is when initially students want their research to prove their hypothesis, but the exciting thing is when it disproves the hypothesis and shows that what you thought was true isn't. That's science, really, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I've worked with a student on one of the dissertations before, and we've actually written a paper together where we've gone for a conference, but it was about the banks just after the trust issues with banks. And so she did this whole research on Virgin and Metro. And how banks, in the way we understand them, should be different. It's no longer the very hard counter, over the counter, but more. So for example, if you go into Norwich today, go to Virgin banks, or if you go to Metro Bank, you actually get a chair, you get coffee. So they've changed the whole the image from a very hard to very soft. And her research actually showed that.
So consumers do want
this. And it all centered around this whole issue of trust. Now, how do I trust you? So from a bank's perspective, in order to break down that cold over the counter, it was soft plush chairs, coffee, tea.
Indeed. Or you never go to a bank at all. I haven't been to a bank branch for about 20 years, actually. So a lot of us.
All online now.
So we have another 5 minutes to go. The final question, this is a good one. What do you look for in an ideal student?
Well, I think firstly, a passion and a real interest in branding. I love students who've got lots of curiosity. I like students who, in class, challenge me, tell me I'm wrong, explain to me why I'm wrong, and have that curiosity to explore what's happening in the world out there. So we want challenges, we want curiosity, and we want passion. And ones that are prepared to stand up to us, really.
Nick, what's your ideal student?
I think for me, for the students, will be their learning habits. So if you are trained from a very Asian Oriental perspective, where you are told to respect your teachers, you're told to remember, to memorize. I would advise you strongly to discard all that. And then come with a very open mind. Come with a lot of questions. Come with challenges. Your teachers are never right all the time, and sometimes by questioning you learn. So for me, the ideal student would be someone who never takes anything that I say to be the absolute truth.
Fantastic, fantastic.
Yeah.
So the motto of UEA is do different.
Yeah.
And I think we're all of us saying that in a way, aren't we? We're looking for students who want to, who have the passion and the energy to look at things in a different way, to think differently,
Yeah.
and then after the program to go out and hopefully do branding
Absolutely.
differently
Yeah.
and better.
Yeah.
That's why we set the program up to do
Yeah.
for the world to have better branding.
Yeah.
So people who want to do that are the ones who make the ideal students.
Absolutely. And I think going back to a point you made earlier, Robert, that in the world of branding, there aren't really any right or wrong answers.
Mm.
So what we do look for in students are students who are able to put forward an argument, and we rarely say, you are wrong,
Yeah.
but what we might say is you need to actually convince us better
Yep.
that what you've said is what is correct or right or favourable
Yes.
or advantageous. So, in terms of brand strategies, from a very practical point of view, brands often have many, many options, and it's a matter of just choosing one given the circumstances that face a brand at that particular time.
Yes.
And who's to say whether it's right or wrong? Only history.
So what matters actually is conviction.
Conviction, yes.
Whatever it is, do it with
Yeah.
conviction.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Be able to come up with an idea for a brand and then argue it so that you can sell that idea.
Yeah.
To the client or to the customer.
So by the end of this year,
Mhm.
students will be able to do that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's the aim. That's
And the interesting thing is, when you say that, we have a number of cases where students have come back to us after they've graduated, after they've been in work and got a job. They've come back to us and said, the reason I got the job was that the person interviewing me looked at the MSc Brand Leadership and thought, here's a unique course, and we want to talk to you, and they got the job as a result. And the great thing is, of course, as well, is that those students who have graduated now coming back to us and said, can we find out who you've got on your books this year, because we want to employ them.
We want to hire them. And
Yeah.
indeed, some of them are actually now mentors. So there's
Yeah.
a kind of full circle. Some of our students and our old students are now
Yes.
mentors
Yeah.
to new.
And in fact, in the next 6 weeks, I think we're going to London with the students twice.
Yep.
To brand agencies where our alumni are working.
Yep.
Because they've invited us back. They say, we want to meet your students. So,
Plus, we're visiting Google, which is a moderately glamorous evening, which I think we can promise to you, the next group of students for summer 2020. That is 30 minutes. Thank you very much for joining us. Thank you for your questions.
Mhm.
We hope we've answered them. If you have more questions, then do email Peter or me, and then increasingly Nick. We'll copy Nick into, and we'll look forward to seeing you in this very room, in this very building in September. Thank you very much.
okay, thank you. Bye.
Bye.